Hey everyone, I'm Stacey with NutritionJobs. I have a really fun guest with us today who has a lot of really great insights on how to work as a dietitian in a non-traditional job. So you've got to listen to all that she's got to say. So I would love for you to welcome Ashley Moyna. Oh gosh. Okay, Ashley, I never practiced your very last name. I only know you
That's
as Ashley
okay.
Moyna.
It's
Welcome,
Schwickert.
Ashley.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
I'm so delighted to have you to sit down with you because you and I actually met a while ago. We met at an event, a sponsored travel event with the National Pork Board. We met together in Des Moines, Iowa, and it was really amazing. And I got to see you work. You were there
Yeah.
working. I was there as a guest, as a dietitian guest. And let me tell you guys, Ashley is this world-class food photographer, and she's really, really amazing. She's got some really great insights on how she became a food photographer and what skills she has and is developing to be really successful in that. So, Ashley, welcome.
Yay. Thanks, Stacey. I'm so excited to chat on these topics because I get all fired up in this
I
area.
know. And we've had lots of really fun talks about work, working as a dietitian. You are a food photographer now, but can you give us a little bit of background about how you came into the profession of being a dietitian? I know you've got a really special background, and I think everyone would really benefit from learning what you do.
Yeah. Um, if we start at the beginning, this all started with I was in high school and I entered the Iowa Egg Council recipe cook-off and I ended up winning with my apple pecan French toast cups.
Oh,
So I still
wait.
have that recipe if
Oh
anyone.
my gosh, back in high school. Oh my gosh, I love this.
Yeah. And at that time I had actually job shadowed a dietitian and I was not interested. It was a clinical role, and I was like, gosh, I want to make food fun and exciting and interesting and like make people excited about food. So the reason that event was somewhat profound is that at the event, one of the judges was the culinary science professor at Iowa State. So Iowa State offers a culinary food science program. It's pretty unique, honestly. So I ended up pursuing that path. And then when I was there, I started to learn about dietetics and how it can look like 100 different paths, and now maybe even like 1,000 different paths, which is so much of what the work you do, Stacey. But that's kind of what got me more excited about it again, and the path of retail dietetics, entrepreneurship dietetics, and I really landed on kind of fusing these worlds. Like as will become clear, I'm very multi-passionate, but I think that can help you stand out in a lot of ways. So I really wanted to bring food, nutrition, cooking, culinary, business all together. And I ended up double majoring in dietetics and then culinary food science to help bring those worlds together. So yeah, all began with French toast, I guess you could
French
say.
toast. Okay, yum. Now I'm craving French toast. That was interesting. I loved what you said. I sort of want to go back to how you maybe met with a mentor or you had somebody that sort of gave you an idea about how you can pursue this area of dietetics or nutrition science. I think that's really helpful. I think that's helpful for a lot of people when you're just kind of looking around for different careers and kind of going alone on your own. It's really hard to know what's out there, but I love that you were
Totally.
able to tap into some expertise or some insight from another person. I think that's really helpful. So then you had a double major, so you nutrition science and then and culinary science.
Yeah.
How did what was your first job? I should ask. Like, what did you first start out doing?
Oh, so what was really cool and unique about Iowa State's culinary science program, they also have a food science program. They have a lot of opportunities working for food companies. So I think it was my summer after my sophomore year, I interned with the Beef Council, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association in Colorado near Denver. And they have a test kitchen. So that was kind of first exposure into recipe development, food photography. They outsourced some of their photography, so I got to go to the shoot and see the whole thing, which was absolutely mind-blowing because I hadn't seen anything like that. So that was my first internship in a related field. I had done some restaurant work before that, various things, but that was the first like all-in test kitchen. And it was actually after that that I added dietetics because that's where I was like, I love this, but how can I apply like food to helping people and kind of bring that together? So yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, what's interesting is before I became a dietitian, it was in my undergraduate studies that I worked for Del Monte and I was
Oh,
in
yeah.
their test kitchen as well. And I
Yes,
worked with
fun.
the food stylists, the food photographers,
Oh,
and we
love
would
it.
we would stylize all the canned foods essentially. And
That is
I think when these opportunities come along, like just like saying, yes, I would love to do that
yes.
really opens
Totally.
up a lot of opportunity and it sounds like you had that same experience. Like how do you think that you
Yes.
got selected to work for the Beef Council at that time?
Um, I do think going to a university that really prioritizes those relationships with businesses and organizations. I grew up on a farm, so I'm sure that helped in my application too. But they had a good relationship with the beef producers of Iowa, and then there was an internship. I think it was specifically to an Iowa State student. So
Oh,
kind of searching
fantastic.
out,
Yeah.
if you can, those internships. The academic advisors at Iowa State were super essential in my career path, both in finding those internships, which ultimately lead to your job opportunities through those connections. And then, for the dietetics advisor, she was the one, we talked about like, here's all the things you can do. So yeah, just utilizing those connections and like really getting to know your advisors and talking with them. They just are wonderful resources. So I have them to thank for a lot of what came during college and then after as well.
I was going to say the same thing. I think really making a point of making strong relationships with the
Yeah.
mentors or creating mentorships with people, but also just right now in your whether it's your work with coworkers or somebody who can maybe show an interest in you or
Totally.
help you along, or even just send an email on your behalf. Or if you're in
Yes.
school, your advisors, your teachers, your dietetic internship preceptors, like really
Yep.
take advantage of those people. Honestly, it's funny because I have high schoolers and they're so afraid sometimes to talk to their teachers. And
Yeah.
I think, on the converse, like the teachers are excited. These people would
Yeah.
love to be your mentor. It doesn't happen
Yes.
that often. And so I think really being able to feel comfortable and confident and take advantage of those relationships can really just
Yeah.
open up different ideas. You don't have to take every idea or take every opportunity that comes your way, but it just opens up your thought process about how you want to see your career as a dietitian, where you want to go into. And you and I were talking about this a lot as well. So then fast forward, so you then became a dietitian, and
Yep.
how did
Pass
you
that
get,
exam.
yeah,
That's when I started
finally.
drinking coffee, like for real. Studying for that exam. Oh, that
That's
was
it.
tough.
That is, yeah, I think that's a core memory for a lot of people is making both is
Yes.
studying for and then eventually getting to the point where you can say you passed the exam. So congratulations on that for everybody too. Um, so when you and I met in Des Moines, Iowa, I noticed you because you had this really great work ethic. You were very, very positive and fun to be around. You were super professional. You have like a ton of amazing skills that I think make for a successful dietitian. So, how did you get into then food photography? Like, how did you decide that this was
Yeah.
going to be a business, or where did you come upon that?
Great question. So, like I mentioned, kind of exposure to the field was throughout internships within test kitchens in college, but the taking the leap from like, oh, this is a thing people do to like, this is something I can do actually happened in grad school. I was working for a food startup company called Corn Rind, and they make this vegan cheesy sauce. Um, I should mention too, my master's degree was in nutrition and dietetics, but it had a culinary entrepreneurship emphasis, which is
Oh, nice. Oh, good
like
job.
trifecta
Yeah.
of what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. And it was at St. Louis University, so SLU. But one of the, curriculum requirements was working with a related company. So I worked with Corin Rind, the owner or founders are Candy and Rita. And I just started doing, they're a startup. they need help with everything. If you work for a startup, you will learn all the things that you want to learn, which is cool. Um, and I remember just, iPhone photos, styling by a window. Like I had no idea what I was doing. But they saw potential in that and they really appreciated it. And then at the end of the internship, they gave me the best gift ever. They gave me a DSLR camera, like my first Canon. Yeah. And not
Wow.
only that, but they were like, hey, we want you to keep doing this for us I had my first job then at a meal kit company, but they're like, on the side, we'll pay you if you want to keep doing this. So I think like they literally gave me the tools to do
Hmm.
the job, but then they also believed in me and became, my first client, honestly. Um, and like that was so foundational. All those things together, it's kind of the, belief in you plus tools. Like at this point, you're like, all right, why not do this? So it was food photography was a side hustle, so to speak, for a lot of years. And it kind of waxed and waned. And if stuff popped up, I'd be like, oh yeah, I do that. And I'll do that for you. But I never really like pitched it. I was also working for like I mentioned, a meal kit company. That's a startup. So everyone kind of had a side hustle who worked there, they're a little volatile, so it's good to have a second stream of income. So that kind of enabled me to keep working on my skills, slowly building it. And I know some people do better just diving off the deep end into their dreams and goals. But honestly, it worked great for me. It was way less pressure. It kept it fun, because I didn't have that pressure to succeed. And it enabled me to continue to get better at it while being okay being a beginner. Because again, it's not like I'm a full-time food photographer, being the best of the best. I'm dabbling, so to speak. So it was a great way to just like get my feet wet and kind of discover like, oh, I really, really like this versus, buying all the equipment and finding out maybe you don't love it. So lots
Yeah,
of
and it
benefits.
sounds like, yeah, and developing your skills along the way and getting some
Yes.
feedback. And what I'm
Ah,
hearing you say is that you've got this you've worked with some startups, and so there's a couple of things that
yep.
come with that is when you have to take initiative. Like there's not going to
Yeah.
be somebody coming along behind you, your manager, or HR, whatever, like, okay, did you finish your to-do list this week? Like,
Yeah,
you've got to have
totally.
incredible self-starting initiative, and that's a
Yeah.
really important skill. Uh, um, I think that that's a really great one, and for anybody in any position. But it sounds like that has been something that other people have noticed in you. And then the other thing that I noticed, or what I'm hearing, is working for a startup. Something that happens sort of organically is you get a lot of observational learning. You get to see what other
So
people are
much.
doing, how things
Mhm.
work, how systems don't
Yeah.
work, and how you have to
Yes.
redo stuff and pivot and move forward. So I think having that background in startups, I think is really helpful too to when you're creating your own business or when you're going out as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. I think that can be very, very helpful. Okay, so then you decided. Then did you start getting some paying clients when you were doing food photography?
Yeah. Yep. So a lot of it was, word of mouth or someone knew someone. Again, it was funny because within the meal kit company I worked for, I was doing some social media marketing for them. I was taking on like some marketing work on the side, which again, theme here, Jill of all trades, just doing it all. Which I'm glad I did because you pretty quickly find out like, yes, no, I like this, not like this, certain things like that. But I would laugh because I'd be like, I'm marketing for other people and I'm not even marketing my own thing. Which you're an entrepreneur, you know how that can go sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's hard. Like
Um,
there's so many different arms to running your own business. It's not just the
yes.
content that you're creating. It's getting a bunch of different sides. For me, I've got employers and job seekers, so I have like two sets of clients, and
Yeah.
so right. So it's a lot. But it sounds like you have learned that there's a lot of skills or a lot of skill sets that can go into this. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I want to hear more about the story about the marketing.
Yeah, so a lot of what was great is the other jobs I was doing all ultimately like benefited my end goal, which was to be a full-time food photographer. So all the marketing skills help me so much now. Even the income generated from your 9 to 5 helps fund a new camera or other equipment. So again, it was a side hustle till, well, we had COVID in there, which is just a glitch in the whole system, right? Like we're like, okay, not going full time right now in this. But yeah, worked for various startups. And then I think it was about 2 years ago. I wish I could say it was this like light shining through the clouds of like this aha moment, but it honestly stemmed from more like frustration of me not going in 100%.
Hmm.
And the idea of like, if I don't try this, I will regret it. 20 years from now, it's not going to be easier to make the leap. So yeah, I think it was, oh, I lose track of time, but I think it was about 2 years ago now. I went full in, full time. We're doing this, we're marketing, we're, you know, going all in, I guess is the best way to say it. Which has been really fun and felt very aligned, very exciting, all the feelings that go with that. But yeah, so I've been full time for about 2 years. I actually rebranded, I renamed the company. It used to be Seedling, and it was like marketing agency. Like I said, I was doing some marketing, and now niche down into strictly food photography and food styling. So I guess it's not really niching down.
Well, they kind of go
But
together,
yeah,
right? Like if you want to
totally.
photograph food, you've got to have it styled, right? You
Yes.
can't
Yep.
and
Yep.
style, food styling. Maybe you can give us some tips about that. But food
Oh, yeah.
styling is it's a lot, and you don't think
Yeah.
it would be. You think you have a pretty plate, like, or when you go to a restaurant, you see like a pretty plate. But when you get a camera over it, it then
Yeah.
becomes two-dimensional, and you've got to rearrange stuff on the plate, or you got to tighten
Totally.
it up together. Here, it's not my expertise, but
Yeah.
just from the amount of time that I had done it and working with all the food stylists, like it's a lot. So having
Yeah.
that together in your business, and what's the name of your business now?
Studio Moyna.
Student Point, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And it's a beautiful website. I highly recommend everybody checks it out. It's like this gorgeous, gorgeous website, beautiful food. She's got lots of beautiful stuff. But so I mentioned some of your skills. I mentioned that I think you have this amazing initiative, this great work ethic, really fun to be around, really positive,
You're so sweet.
I would hire you in a heartbeat if I had some
Oh.
food to photograph. But what do you think are some of the skills that you've had sort of inherently that you've been able to find that make you successful in the work that you're doing? And maybe what skills have you then been developing along the way?
Okay, I love this question. I actually wrote this down because I wanted to not miss anything. But let me find it. Okay, desire to constantly learn. I do think dietitians are really good at this because we have to keep, up to date on the latest research, the latest practices, the latest dietary trends. Like I think it's something a lot of dietitians are inherently good at. But as an entrepreneur, you have to be like extra good at it because every day is something new, right? So you have to find joy in that because if you don't, it can be really hard because we mentioned this, but you're the marketer, you're the sales, you're the finance. I mean, until I grow, that's where I'm at. But honestly, I love that. So I think that's a fairly innate skill. And then curiosity, both about people and new things, getting to know people. Like I genuinely love meeting new people, socializing, hearing their story. Um, I guess, that might not be the most traditional sales strategy, but it can work. Like I was just at Lunds and Byerly's and there was someone sampling food and I tried his bar and it was delicious. And I was like, this is so interesting. And then I told him what I do. And then he said, do you have a card? And, maybe it'll be a client in the future. So I do feel like just being friendly and,
Mhm.
curious and interested in what others do is something innate. I also learned that from my parents. They're both entrepreneurs and they're both very good at that. So
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting that your parents
yeah,
are entrepreneurs and
yes.
you are as well. That yeah,
Yes.
that maybe that gave you the confidence to do that eventually. Yeah.
Very much so. Like my dad is the most like a serial entrepreneur, classic entrepreneur there is, like always do new things. But he was so funny even in school. He'd be like, why are you working for someone else? You should do your own thing. Like, even in college, I'd be like, Dad, I need to learn how the world works first. But great, because not everyone has that support. So yes, very lucky. So I'd say that's innate, but it was probably learned from them for sure.
Yeah.
And then developing this, this gets me fired up because uh again, as an entrepreneur, you cannot really, your weaknesses get presented to you often because you have
That's a
to
great way to say that. Yes,
do
it's so
them. Yeah,
true.
you can't avoid them. You have to tackle them head on. So the number one thing, and I think this applies to entrepreneurs or not, negotiating, like asking for your worth. There is my friends in dietetics and I talk about this a lot. Through school, you learn to just take the opportunities. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Thank you. I'll work for free. No problem. And honestly, that lent itself well to, the path that I'm on. However, now I'm a business owner. So you have to learn how to negotiate, how to ask for your worth, how to set boundaries. Like, there's a limit. I can't do 1,000 photos for you within 4 hours. What can I do? So getting really good at negotiating and asking for your worth. I literally Googled like negotiation club Minneapolis yesterday because I was like, I
It's
gotta get
hard.
better at this.
It's hard,
Um,
right? We don't
mm,
negotiate very
yes,
often, or if it does come up, we sort of shy away from it because it's conflict. It feels
yeah,
uncomfortable. And
yes,
I've given a few talks on salary negotiation and when it comes to money and you're offering a service, for food photography, nutrition counseling, whatever it might be, that this is all business and it's
yeah,
totally okay to do that, and but it can be done with a smile. The
yeah,
negotiation doesn't have to be like butting heads or trying to take more money from somebody or whatever that
totally.
feeling feels like. It's really
Mhm.
about developing this great relationship with someone that hopefully you can work with, where
Yeah,
in exchange for you providing a service, they are providing you money. So just coming up with what works and having this great relationship with somebody. So I love
totally.
that you have identified that too as an entrepreneur, that
Yeah,
is something that does feel uncomfortable or feels like a skill we have to develop, but that it's necessary, that there's no negotiation on that, right? Like that we
yeah.
have to learn how to feel comfortable talking about money and just saying it out loud. Even us talking about it now, I think hopefully will give somebody permission to be able to talk about it in their own setting. So I
Totally.
appreciate that you brought that up. Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's something I have to do often in my job, and I'm working on kind of reframing it too of, you know, I am helping them solve a business problem and I'm helping them, right? Like me offering this service is helping someone. So it
Yeah.
doesn't have to feel salesy or icky. There doesn't have
Ye-
to be a lot of emotion in it. This is what it costs to provide that service, and that's just
Right.
what it
Right.
is. So
And I think for some
yeah.
people, it might feel comfortable if some of the stuff is written out for them as an entrepreneur. Like, this is what
Yeah.
I do. These are the things. This is the deliverable that I can provide you for this amount of money. And I think that
Yeah.
that helped me as well for my own
Totally.
business. And I think that might be helpful for other people. And then just get used to saying that one thing instead of having a different
Yes.
conversation with different people. Everyone has a different business model, but I find that if talking about money feels uncomfortable, having something written down very specific, this is what I'll provide for this amount of money, and that's
Yeah.
that.
I love that. That's a really good tip. You're getting clear and confident, and then you get to practice that same script, which always
Yeah.
helps.
And you're not like hiding anything. It's not sort of shady or feels shady or
Yeah.
it feels a little more solid and objective. And I think that's super helpful for people who are feeling uncomfortable. So okay, so
I love
all your
that.
other skills. Yeah, what else do you think that you have been developing along the way?
Again, within business, there's a lot. Like, I feel like they're all being developed. I do feel like the ability to read or understand contracts is really important. Again, this is kind of niche to what I do, but that can come into play in a lot of different areas. And then getting good at like reading analytics and understanding KPIs. This pertains, I mean, if you're in anything related to business, and I hate to say it, but most clinical jobs are somehow relating to business, right? Whether it's clinical, retail, community, ultimately ties to some kind of business model. So getting good at, for me, it's tracking marketing analytics. Like I need to know that where I'm putting my time is ultimately benefiting the outcome I'm looking for. If it's marketing, is it bringing clients? But then, metrics can look different for me too, of client satisfaction, return clients. That's always great. And then ultimately revenue and profits, right? And that's not, again, in a sleazy or icky way, but that means, bringing in money means I can continue to grow and provide more services to more people. So, getting good at numbers, and, I get so passionate about this, but I think dietitians are so good at business because if you can calculate a tube feed, you can do anything. You can do any numbers. If you can sell a healthy diet, you can sell anything, because selling lifestyle change is the hardest thing to sell. And the dietitians are making marketing materials all the time, handouts, meal plans. Like dietitians are so good at business because we have all these foundational elements of business. We just don't even know that that's what they are. So even though I don't use my RD credential directly in the job I do, the skills I've gained through school education internship definitely benefit everything I do. And I am actually so glad that I majored in dietetics and then learned business through, practical application. Versus flipping it, if I would have majored in business, just learning dietetics would be very difficult. So, that's my little 2 cents on business and why dietitians are amazing at it. Because I know
I
so
like,
many dietitians in business crushing it because they're amazing.
yeah, I like what you said though. I think that's helpful. I think that our didactic training in dietetics is what it is, right? So that's
Yeah.
the craft
Yeah.
that we have, and I think all of us could benefit from a little bit of business knowledge, a little marketing knowledge, whether
Yeah.
you go out to have a full entrepreneurial gig or whether you want to do something part-time or on the side. That is really helpful. But I think even if you have a traditional job and being able to sell yourself and market yourself and demonstrate
Totally.
what your dollar value, your patient satisfaction value might be, really
Yes.
being able to speak to that, feel comfortable speaking about that. And those are all things that can be learned, right?
Yeah.
And I love what you've said, that that's the foundation that we have in our education, is understanding numbers, having, a good feel for that, and looking for evidence, looking for
Yes.
evidence-based information to then share, which is the same thing as is tracking key performance indicators or other metrics of outcome. It's the same idea. It's
Totally.
research, it's evidence-based
Yep.
information that can really inform our future. I love that you said that. Oh gosh, I have so many questions for you, Ashley. I'm so curious about how you actually do your job and get clients, or how you have crafted and honed your craft in both food styling and also food photography. Do you have any little
Yeah.
tips for people who are thinking
Ooh.
about going into food photography, whether it's a part-time gig or something on the side, or if they have their own food blog
Yeah.
and
Oh
writing
my
is sort of
gosh.
in their
Yes.
mind, right? Recipe development, writing is the
Yes.
main thought that they have, but that they know they need to shoot their food
Yes.
to be able
So,
to show it. Do you have
oh,
any
okay.
tips for
One of
us?
my is dreams. Actually, I am presenting to the North Dakota nutrition conference. I think it's next March. But one of my long-term dreams is to create a food photography and styling course for dietitians
Yay!
because again, I keep mentioning retail dietitians, but they're a niche, influencer dietitians. We eat with our eyes. So if you as a dietitian can utilize some simple tips and tricks, it would definitely be iPhone friendly. So stay tuned for that because I am working on it. But
I would love that. Yes, and my entire audience would love just a couple insights would be awesome too.
yeah. So the biggest thing I would say, a photographer's main job is about capturing light. So,
Mm.
it sounds cheesy, but it really is all about the light. So, the best, least expensive way to get the best light is going to be natural light. So it's going for a window, finding, a big open window. If it's direct sun, that can give you really harsh shadows. So it's nice to have a little diffusion that can be, some kind of see-through cloth, or you can just step a little bit away so you're not getting that direct harsh sun. But if you're getting a little bit of natural sun, and my biggest like trick for fail-proof lighting on food is if your bowl is we're not in the best place for this, but let's say you set your bowl here, you want the light coming from the back corner. So
Oh,
wherever your bowl is, the back corner lighting, that's kind of my go-to, like it's going to work every time. So if you get it set up by a window and kind of set up so it's coming from that back left or right corner, that's just going to make the food kind of shine and look amazing. And then my other second biggest hack is the angles at which you're taking the photo. So, we're kind of used to, you're at a dinner and you just pull out your phone and you're kind of just like here. Well, there's kind of like three, and maybe now that you know this, you'll notice it. Three typical angles. You can always change it up. Rules are made to be broken, but top down. So keeping your phone like as flat as possible. 45-degree, which can work really well for like sandwiches where you want to see those layers. And then straight on. So straight on is again great for sandwiches, cakes, burgers, things with layers where you want to see all the goodness. So those two
those
hacks
are so good.
very
I'm like,
specific.
okay, that's like a
But
little tiny mini masterclass right there. Like
yeah,
everyone's
just
going,
do
oh, wait,
those
what?
and oh, seriously, angle and lighting, and I do think those two things. And then we can get into editing. I mean, there's more, but those two hacks will help a
That
lot.
is so super valuable. That is really valuable. I really
Yeah, oh,
appreciate
good.
that. I always like to end on a question about dietitian salaries. And I think we've already sort of covered
Yes.
it, but as
Yes.
you know, a lot of dietitians are not satisfied with the compensation and their salaries. What would be your advice, your recommendation to future dietitians, current dietitians, sunsetting dietitians? What would you recommend for how we could boost our salary and compensation as a profession?
Okay, I love number one that you're talking about this, we're talking about this. Because I've had a lot of friends, either leave the profession, but and I understand why, because you need to be able to afford to live, a healthy lifestyle. And that includes mental health, physical health, etc. Um, my again, I'm a little biased here, but my pitch ties to why dietitians are amazing in business. And that can look like so many different things. That can look like a side hustle. That can look like helping a friend or family member who owns a business with something. That can look like learning social media and boosting your own account to help, maybe partner with food companies to have posts like that. So when I say dietitians in business, and that could look like advancing, and then ultimately, maybe you're not using your dietitian credential. You don't need to be a dietitian to be in a role, but that background again helps you so much as the director of marketing for any food or health company. So I guess kind of to make it more tangible, it'd be like if you're interested in marketing, sales, finance, operations, anything like that, is there a way to sort of dabble within the company you're working for, try a side hustle, take an online course, do your own thing? That's the cool thing of social media. You can have your own account. Just see if you like it, see what you think, gain some skills. And if you love it, there's so many online courses, ways. If you know an entrepreneur, they probably need help with something. So ask them. And just start, my kind of pitch is to share your dream because people want to help you achieve it. So if that's something you're interested in, put in the work, but then also speak to it, because when you combine those two things, both showing that or telling people you're interested and showing people you're interested, sky's the limit. So that's my little
Thank you. That was so valuable, so helpful. I think that will speak to a lot of people. And it just feels comforting to know and just have these conversations, I think. But that just
totally.
feels comforting to know that there's a path to that. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Ashley, can you tell us how people can find you? Because you have
Yes.
beautiful photographs, and I want everyone to be able to see what you've got. How can people find you?
Okay, so you mentioned website. The It is September 16th. Tomorrow, my new website's launching.
Yay.
So I'm very excited about that. It's been a long time coming, and hopefully it'll be a better way to kind of showcase my work, but also serve, clients, future folks wanting to learn about food photography and styling. So check that out. That's www.studiomoyna.com.
Perfect. I was
STUDIOMOYNA.com.
going to spell it. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll have all that down below in the comments, people, so you
Yeah,
can
perfect.
connect with her
So
directly.
Instagram is the main place I'm most active. You can find me on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
And then kind of starting YouTube dabbling, but I would say Instagram and website are the most active place. And then through the website, you can sign up for my newsletter. And as I continue to offer more educational resources, I'll be sharing that mainly with my newsletter list. So yeah, check it out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Your insights were really both inspiring, but also I feel like they were just good and solid. I really appreciate
Yay.
it. And everybody, go check out Ashley's work. It's really fun to see, and it's super inspiring. And thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, so much. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.